Hello, my name is James, and today I will be doing a business model canvas for asignio. I'll start out with the value proposition. So, asignio does a lot of things. It is an authentication service designed for all sorts of platforms. So, the main part of asignio is that it's supposed to be more secure than other types of authentication. They have 1 in 1.2 million chance of accidentally logging in when it was not the correct signature, whereas something like a thumbprint has 1 in 50,000, and something like facial recognition has 1 in a million. So it's more secure than these types of authentication. In addition, the EU is going to have a mandatory two-step verification for all purchases over 30 euros in the coming years. So this will allow credit card companies to comply with those demands because it will help you authenticate your purchases as opposed to login like Duo Mobile or Google Authenticator or other things like that. Another huge thing about a part of Insignia is it's not hardware specific. So things like a thumbprint reader are hardware specific, so not all kinds of phones are able to do that. Whereas any touchscreen will be able to be used with a Signio service. It can also be integrated into current apps very easily. So, for example, Bank of America could, in just a few lines of code, add a Signio as their second form of authentication very easily. There's also a few other things I'd like to touch on for the value. So it is a biometric thing, meaning that it is part of who you are. So it's biometric authentication, like a thumbprint, but it's with your signature. So there's that type of authentication. It also has geolocation, so it knows where you are, so it can help identify if the person is in a scenario that makes sense. For example, if someone tried to log in from China for me right now, it wouldn't make a lot of sense because I would just logged in America. So it would be able to track you and know that you're probably not in China and it's probably being hacked. All right. So the next thing I would like to go over is the customer segment. Who's actually going to use this? So there's two main parts. One is the banks. The banks are right now the people who are most interested in Insignia. So the banks would be the people who actually decide to use Insignia, and then the customers of the banks are going to be the ones who are actually going to use Insignia. So the banks are going to choose to use it and apply it for all their customers, and the customers are actually going to be the ones who use it day to day. And it's the customers who use online, or not online, but forms of payment like credit cards or debit cards, anything that needs to be verified. Key activities of Signio include making deals with banks in order to get them to use Signio as their authenticator, and then also platform maintenance. The key resources include banking contacts and developers. So in order to get into a bank, you have to know someone at the bank. So knowing those people is very important. Also, being able to get into certain banks that have more influence than other banks, and you're able to get a kind of an indirect contact in that way because one bank will see, oh, that reputable bank is using the software. So that is another key resource. Key partnerships include the banks that are going to use the service, the investors, other tech companies, and the military, along with Microsoft. So the banks are important because they're the bread and butter of Insignio. They're who's going to help generate the most revenue. The investors are important because right now Insignio is not making profit, so the investors help keep things moving on. Microsoft is another partnership. They're currently working on account verification, and that is what Microsoft is going to be doing for. I believe they said they had on the order of 1.9 billion logins a day, so that would be a huge account for Insignia, even at a very, very small fraction of a penny per sign-in. Other tech companies that talk to Google and other things like that, they said that they didn't enjoy working with Google, so they're probably going to stop that. But a lot of tech companies that need login assistance will be interested in this. Also, they're working on military access instead of an access key code or an access card. They're looking to use Signio an entry to their military base. Next, we have the cost structure. So the main costs involved are platform development, customer acquisition, meaning being able to get into the banks, all of the costs associated with that, meetings, flying, the whole crew that does all of the negotiations, lawyers' fees, all of those fees are what I put under customer acquisition. And then salaries for the developers and business people and everyone else. Customer relationship. Asignio is a website based authenticator, so everything will be automated, and it's also really simple. You'll just get a push notification that'll take you to the website. You'll be able to sign in very simply, very quickly. So the channels, right now, the only way to access Asignio is if you have an access code that allows you to log in or join the site. And you can't just get that, you have to be a part of a partner. So if you were at a bank that was using Asignio, you'd be able to get it through that. And the revenue streams, there's a small portion in every credit card fee, like the 3%, 3-4% the merchants pay. And that goes to internet security. And part of that will go to pay Asignio for their fee of authentication. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed my business model canvas Asignio. Thank you.